I am JB Bryan, the President and Chief Investment Officer at JB Bryan Financial Group, the home of AfroEconomics. I had an exciting meeting this morning. I was actually in the capital of Virginia, in the Jefferson Hotel, listening to a senator talk about financial services and the business and the future of financial services and regulation and all of these changes that you all have no idea that are actually going on for us. So, I mean, I was so involved in it that I didn't even want to really leave. I had really never thought about so much stuff that's going on in Washington that we locally need to make sure that we are involved in. I mean, and what the congressman was constantly saying is what I need you all to do. What I need you all to do. And I think that one of his thesis statement really was that we need to look deeper into everything. We need to look deeper into everything, especially financially. So I thought, wow, I'm going to make sure I'm going to take one thing down so that it doesn't get all, I don't know if I can, yeah, there we go. Great, changing things around. But one thing, especially with Social Security, and it made me think about Social Security because he was discussing about how the government is going to be raising money over the next 20 years, how they're going to be paying for things like Social Security, how it's going to impact us, and what we need to, do individually to get involved in all that is impacting us financially. And especially the future, all these generations behind us, what should they be thinking about? What should we be looking out for them? So this discussion is the same thing about talking and looking at stuff that we really don't want to talk about, but it still impacts us, like looking deeper. Right, Cynthia? Looking deeper into things that are really, if they're not already affecting you at your current point in life, they're impacting you in the future. And I looked up some research, and the research says that the Social Security Administration released this information as of 2016. So this is new stuff. And it said the majority of Americans rely on Social Security. It says Social Security represents the largest source of retirement income for the majority of Americans. Do you believe that, Mr. Barnes?
I would have never thought that. I would never have guessed that.
Hard for you to believe, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Roderick? Did you think that?
No, that's somewhat surprising. It really is.
Right? Amazing. So I want to, I'm hearing you twice. Technology is like really kicking me right now, but I want to hear your response. I'm going to try to pull you up in here too. So this might help me better, but then it'll be a delay. So I know what I'm going to do. Stick with me. Here, and you're open in 2 places. So let's go back. Great. So tell me, when I tell you that, George, that Social Security is the largest source of income for the majority of Americans, does that give you concern?
Yes. Because I don't think so. Social Security really provides that much as far as cash.
Yep, and there's a lot of people who are on Social Security and they are living below the poverty level.
Yeah.
Okay. Because of, they're relying on it. And then there's a lot of people who get to retirement age, unfortunately, Mr. Walton, who don't even qualify for Social Security because they never learned what was required of them, what they needed to contribute. And especially and we talked a lot last week in the discussion. Thank both of you for participating. We were talking specifically about Black men, starting their own businesses. And I talk about that a lot. But when you're self-employed, you really do run the risk of, making sure that you do put in the money that you're required to put in. Like it says, self-employed people, for the government wants you to put away 15.3% of your income. When you're working for someone, you're putting away 7.65 is going towards the government. And then your employer is putting away 7.65. So that's like people think about when they're working somewhere, they only think about their salary, but they don't realize that when we hire someone, you have to put away 7.65 towards their Social Security and other federal government items. So it's that's called the FICA payroll tax that goes to Social Security. So if you have your own business and you work your business for 30 years and you don't put away that 15.3, what happens, Roderick?
Well, sound like you're going to come up short.
That's right. That's right. Because they're not going to say that you qualified. And I didn't know until I started researching this that they use your highest 35 years. Your highest 35 years.
No, I actually thought it was the highest your last 5 or 10 years.
That's right.
Based on what you're saying, that must apply to your employer.
There you go. That's more of a pension thing, and that's so true. So, definitely it's a lot different, when we're talking about Social Security. So then it brings me to, and I want Cynthia and Patricia, who are my shy girls. Patricia, can you hear me? Patricia? I hear Cynthia. What do you think? Patricia, can you hear me? I heard her laugh. So Cynthia, I did talk to you earlier. Cynthia, can you hear me? Tell me.
Yes, I can hear you well.
Wonderful. And you are a beautiful woman, and I wish we could see your face right now.
I know, my hair is even looking pretty too.
That's
Can you
what
get
I'm
the camera to work?
That's what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? It takes pretty to know pretties. I'm glad I know. I tell you, what do you think is the perfect age to start receiving Social Security?
Oh, you know what? It depends on how long you really expect to live. I think, I think I would take it early because of the simple fact I'm not sure it's going to be around.
Oh, right.
So I wouldn't wait until I was 70 to start taking it.
At least look, at least you could wait till 70. A lot of people don't even know about that 70. That 70 is the maximum, age. That's the longest that you can wait. I've only met a very few people, but I met this one lady and she got to 70 and she was mad because she had to take it. I was like, what in the world? But she is, she was the type, look, I would say probably my type, just like to work. She loved her work. I remember I bought a book from her downtown, and she was really into real estate, and she was scared from a tax perspective that the Social Security income, she was going to have to pay taxes on it, and she was right. And that's another discussion, and I want us to talk about that, down the road. As I'm going on to Virginia this morning, and we're doing a whole series in June about this very thing, Cynthia. And Cynthia, I love that one word that you said, depends. Depends.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on everything. It depends on your health. It depends on your wealth. Like, it depends on your specific situation. Now, Cynthia, you're a very healthy woman. So, you might say that, you're going to live a long time. But if you had health issues, and you might say, well, I'm not going to really live that long. So, and I need the money. Then it's a given that 62, you have to grab it. But, but it definitely deserves a discussion. And the government's accounting office released information. Roderick, Georgia, y'all appreciate this. And they said that people that go in and talk to the government about what age they should start the earliest. Like, they said that when people, people who don't go in and talk to the counselors and stuff like that are less likely to start early. And which probably means that people that go in are like really dependent on this money. They're like, Lord, I got to get in there. They've been waiting. They're like, I've had 51 and 3/4, whatever. Like, how early can I get in? But they're saying that somewhere in the discussion that they feel that this is like them regulating themselves and judging themselves and researching themselves. They said that somewhere in their discussion that they felt like that they were actually, that they were encouraging people somehow to actually start at 62. And I've discovered,
Well, I think there are two schools of thought. Some people say, you take it at 62. Some people say that you take it as long as you can. And I'm one that firmly believes in you take it at your earliest possible eligibility. My reason for saying that is because, the government is a gambler. Okay, they're gambling that if you wait and they're going to toss a carrot in front of you, they're going to say, okay, if you can wait until you're 65 or whatever, we're going to give you a little bit more. But what they're saying is, and that's a double-edged sword, because they're going to give you a little bit more, but you're not going to get it that much longer. Versus you getting, you can get it all right now, or you can get it over the long haul. In this instance, I firmly believe that you should try to get it all right now. And that means that for me, 62 is the golden age for retirement. Yeah. Because again, just as Cynthia was saying, it depends on how long you're going to survive. I personally think that if I'm 62 in decent health, then I want to get as much as I can for as long as I can. So that's just my school of thought. And I don't know how
that's right.
you feel about that.
Right. That's right. You're right. But I've seen the numbers. I wish I had that graphic. I had a graphic that showed like over a 20-year period. But the graphic is kind of misleading in a way because, of course, your check is going to be smaller if you start at 62 than if you start at 70. So if you do it from 62 at that payment for 30 years, then you would get less, than a person who started at 70 and did it for 30 years. But how often, and that's what you're going to say, how often does that person who starts at 70 get to 100, right?
Right. So like I said, you can get it right now, or you can get it over the long haul. You may get a little bit more from 70, 72, but I would submit to you that if you take it at 62, you will probably, in the final analysis, you'll get just as much from 62 to however. Let's say you live to 80, from 62 to 80 versus that person that's start taking it at 70 to 80, and with the increase that they're getting.
Yes, and that's the thing. They've got to, live that stuff. They've got to have like a history of really long living, really to catch up for it to really pay off for them for the delay. Or it also could be an incentive for a delay, which I've seen when I've run the numbers. I like to look at clients' tax returns. So if they're ending up each year with a big tax liability, then in many cases that means, see, your Social Security check, even though after you get full retirement age, you can make as much as you want, but your Social Security still can be taxed up to 85% of it. So if the person is like, say, 65 to 70 or 66 to 70, and 85% of that Social Security is being taxed, then they're not really being able to enjoy the check, if we ran the numbers. So in that situation, it could be better for them to wait until they're forced to take that, or they can take their Social Security and reduce the income from that which they can control, which is great advice. And so if you feel leery of, I'm not leaving, I don't want to leave anymore, because see, with Social Security, your beneficiaries, your children, things don't get that legacy of that multiple millions of dollars you put into that Social Security kitty. Yeah. So if you use your Social Security, this is a strategy, an option. But if you use your Social Security to avoid spending your retirement money as much, then you can, invest your money and grow your money while and reduce the amounts that you're taking out, but out of your IRAs, So that's a strategy versus giving your money back to the government. That makes sense? What I'm saying? Because Social Security can make you run into a tax problem. So what you can do is, but it really needs to be analyzed. Well, if I don't want to stop, because between full retirement age and age 70, the government will give you an 8% bonus if you delay it. And a lot of people don't know about that. So that's an 8% return or 8% increase. So your check might go from like 1,000 to 1,300, so you get like 100 versus 100% of your benefit. If you wait till 70, you can get 132% of your benefit, so it's a nice little bump, but you also have to, like you said, all the risks that we've said, like, what if you don't live to get there? What if you don't live to get it? And it's an 8% increase, but it's not like an 8% increase that you could get on your IRA, where it's still your lump sum and your beneficiaries are still walking away with something. So as I was in a meeting and the daughter was telling the mom, I want you to wait. I don't want you to get your Social Security yet. I don't want you to get your Social Security yet. And the mother had been working, 40 years. And I could tell in her face, she was like, no, I want to get my money. I'm going to get my money. And then I explained that, if she can take that out, then it would put less pressure on her investments, and then she could use the Social Security and she could continue to have her lump sum of money growing for her. But of course, the lump sums of money in many cases aren't guaranteed, unless you make sure you set it up correctly. But, your Social Security income is guaranteed. So it's not as easy as we want to think when we, and just talking about it. It's the whole discussion about Social Security is not as easy as we want to make it. And we definitely, I think that we need to think about what's the difference between 62, 65, 66, 67. My full retirement age to the government will be 67. So the only years that I can get that bonus delay would be, 68, 69, 70. So that 8% bonus is getting smaller and smaller on that, the years between there and 70. And soon that, it's going to have to change. It's going to have to change for the full retirement age. It's going to be moving more because we're living longer, and we don't have, these massive amounts of money contributing to the system. And unfortunately, so we have to, realize that anybody who was born in the 70s and the 80s, they need to really start focusing on they don't want to be like the majority Americans are right now, depending on their Social Security. So those of you who have a private pension, only 13% of Americans have a private pension that's giving them retirement income. 13%, and that's going down because less and less corporations have that. So we have 33%, now just to look at the numbers, 33% of retirees, the largest source of income is from Social Security. Says the majority of Americans, Social Security represents the largest source of retirement income. Social Security, 33% earnings, so that means they're still working. 32% of retirees can't participate in this discussion like you all, like George and Robert, because they're still working. 10% comes from asset income, 13% from that private pension. Then we have government employee pensions, 8%, and then 4% other. I wonder what that other is. They robbing somebody? I don't know. But probably, I guess, from family or something. From family. So it's interesting. And then, so what do you think is the most popular age? The most popular age
to get that Social Security check.
What do you think?
I'm gonna guess 62.
What do you think, Robert?
I would like to say 62, but I think folks are trying to hold out for that bump, and probably 65, I guess.
What do you think, Cynthia? What? She probably had me on mute. Ooh.
Okay, I'm gonna unmute you.
I know, right?
I think it's 65 too. I've noticed that on my job, people have been fussing about and wanting to retire, and then once they hit that age, they realize, and once they hit the point where they can retire, they're like, oh, I think I can stay on a little while longer.
Yeah, so, but it's actually George is right. George,
really?
The blue pen, yeah. The majority of people are still taking that money and walking away. 62.
Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people are saying, just like Roderick was saying, that they want their money as much as they can get for as long as they can get it.
Yep.
Because the longevity is not promised to you.
Exactly. It's so true. And I've met some wealthy people just like all of you all, and they are across the board. Give me my money, I don't care what you're saying, JB. Shut up. I want my money. 62. That's it.
Yeah.
But at least I think the more that I'll talk about the options, and the most important thing is that we should look at our tax consequences. So I want us to have another discussion on the taxation of Social Security, so that we can look at our tax returns and see how much we are, people that are receiving it, how are they being taxed, how is it impacting them, and focus on that area in the 1040. And Cynthia is still working, and and just really looking at the numbers and how is it, and how to avoid being among the majority of Americans who are depending so much on Social Security. And I appreciate you all for being the example, that this is a really important topic, and bringing life to it. You all bring life to it. I can talk about it, but you all are really bringing life to it, and the reality of the majority of people don't have a full understanding about their options. Was there anything that we discussed that was new to you, Roderick?
Actually, I have a question. Let's say you're getting Social Security disability, and you are not at that Social Security age. Once you start getting your disability, and once you turn 62, how do you switch, or do the system automatically switch you? Or, I have a friend of mine in that situation. So how do they, go from Social Security disability to regular Social Security?
Yeah, and it does. It automatically takes care of it. I've met several people, who have gone through that transition, and it's, it's not a difference from one day to the other, you know.
Does the distribution stay the same, or how does it work?
It depends from situation to situation, but typically I've seen if the person was fully qualified for retirement, you know, then I think there is an adjustment higher when they go into, but sometimes they weren't fully qualified for the Social Security when they got on the disability. So I have to, I would first suggest that they should talk specifically with Social Security to make sure, you know, that if they're deserving of an increase, because a lot of times the retirement payout is higher than the disability payout, you know. So they, like you'll see on the estimates that they send you each year, and will say disability is this payment, you know, because they come into different types of money, because Social Security is this old age, survivor, and disability insurance program. So I believe, you know, it all falls under that OASDI. So hopefully it's like different pots of money. So when it stops, right, like, because what survivors get is different than what the old age people that qualify because they reached the 62. So if a disabled person had 35 years of a higher income, then possibly they could, once they get to, you know, 62, see an increase above what they were getting for the disability. I can't verify it. That's definitely a unique situation, but I think I've heard of it, and I've never heard anybody like complain when they transitioned from one to the other. But and I'm just looking at my material that I'm looking at. Eligibility depends on the insured, but definitely, and we can look at that farther, because that's a good question, and somebody out there might actually apply to them, because unfortunately we have a lot of people who are young and receiving disability benefits and have actually worked. Let's just say they're 55, you know, if they're 55, and what you're asking me is what happens to them at 62, correct?
Right.
Yeah, and I will definitely find that out. I'll probably be able to answer in like 10 minutes, but you wouldn't want me to do that while
no,
because you know how I get obsessed. Wait a minute, you know. So, but it's not a bad thing, and it definitely always, most things about the programs that they set up have made sense to me. Like yesterday, not even yesterday, it was a couple of days ago, someone was telling me about, you know, her husband, and she was like, my husband's divorced, and he was married to his first wife for more than 10 years, and then the first wife, if she doesn't remarry, will qualify for his Social Security, you know. And I told her, I said, it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't take away from the 10 years that he spends with you. It's just, it has nothing, it doesn't, they've set it up so nobody's being penalized. It's not like they're actually taking money. His check is not impacted. It's just that the government sees that they have spent that person, if half of his is higher than hers, the old spouse, then she will qualify for the larger of the two amounts, not both. But so they have really thought it all through. But sometimes it works against you. You know, I had a client who his spouse passed away and he became disabled. They've even thought through that. But he became disabled like 7 months too late. Like if you become disabled within a certain amount of years after that person dies, then you can receive a certain amount of disability immediately. But it was a couple months later, I was like, wow, how frustrating. So then he had to wait until 60 years old to get the larger check, which was hers. But there are so many specific situations and changes, and I'm glad that you all brought that up, because this is some real stuff. So remembering that Social Security is deep, that we do need to look into it. You can look at socialsecurity.org. Contact me at jb@afroeconomics.com for specific questions also. Y'all say hoorah. Everybody loves Social Security. It's nice. Look, it's nice to have since we have to pay it, but we don't want to depend on it, right?
No.
Right, indeed. But thank you all so much. God bless y'all. I'm JB Bryan, President and Chief Investment Officer at JB Bryan Financial Group, a registered investment advisory firm. Have a great day. Check out AfroEconomics.com.